super excited to share the progress on the new Playbasis. This has become kind of like a passion project for me. I've just been looking around the industry and I've just noticed that there hasn't been a lot of innovation that's gone into sort of the play-based experiences space, and that's an area I think is ripe for like innovation, especially in the age of generative AI. So I've been building out some games that you can actually fully play. These are, I would say, beyond just mini games. These are actually like full games, and I've done it using 100% generative AI. So this game called Rhythm Pulse is inspired by those kind of beat matching, music games like Dance Dance Revolution, Rock Band, Guitar Hero, Tap Tap Revenge, and I created the characters, the aesthetics, even the music, all using generative AI platforms. I also used the Playbasis API. I dropped in an integration doc. Let's see if I can pull that up here. I have an integration doc here, which is really helpful. You just drop this in, and then when you're coding, as long as you have been provisioned Playbasis API credentials, you can start wiring in all of the components, all of the backend into your application, and it should work right out of the box. This saves you a ton of time. This allows you to ship products faster. You don't have to write core mechanics from scratch. You can drop in quests and badges and missions and leaderboards, and you can have everything in real time. So users can see their streaks and progress update instantly. You can try battle-tested game loops like missions, seasons, tiers, to boost activation and retention. And with our APIs and SDKs and pre-built UI components, you can just drop in pre-wired UI elements that help you move from idea to playable experience in minutes. Let's jump into how this game plays. I created two unique music tracks, and then I created a beat map, and then I created kind of like a difficulty curve so that users can play and accumulate points and score, and then rank up on the leaderboards. Let's jump in here. It's a little bit hard to play on desktop. It's much easier to play on smartphone, but let's give it a try. All right, so that is my score. I've now moved into the third position all time, and I can replay and try to get a better score, or I can jump into the other track here. So this is really cool because with generative AI now, we can have almost infinite games, right? We can be creating new tracks, new levels, new stage backgrounds, like you see here, all using generative AI. I didn't have to use Photoshop at all for any of this. So it's a little hard, but I think it's really fun. Look at this arc. Whoever this arc strike is absolutely incredible. Yeah, so that's the game, and this is a live leaderboard. So what we're doing here is we don't require a login to play the game. The gamer tag here is auto generated by the back end, but that is the actual score, and that gets recorded into the leaderboard, and you can move up that leaderboard as you play, which I think is really cool. It kind of gives users a sense of almost like a sense of pride. They can kind of like take screenshots of this, share it on their social media, and challenge their friends, like, look at my place on the leaderboard, see if you can beat me, that kind of thing. But I think this is really cool. And then you can go even further. You can add in like badges and achievements, and even like real rewards like coupons. So I think this could be great for like branded games. So let's say you're a brand, you're launching a new product, and you're competing in the attention economy. Like you want people to like stop scrolling and like pay attention to your brand. Well, these games can create like minutes and minutes and minutes of valuable engagement that users are spending in front of your brand. So to the extent that you can, create like game graphics or background art that kind of promotes your brand, or somehow tie the mechanics into your brand's or your product's like value proposition, I think that'll be a really interesting way to like promote and advertise your products. It's hard to play this one. This is pretty hard. Yeah, it's a little hard. Okay, so that is the live example here, and I have a little delay here, so you can actually take a screenshot of that, and then you can replay it. So that's pretty cool. I think that's actually really fun. Um, the wanted to bring your attention to the new Playbasis website. So if you go to new.playbasis.ai, you can sign up, and I can get you access to these APIs, and we can start building together. We have extensive documentation. So if you come to the website, you can see like a sample of this documentation. You can see we have like a API reference here. You can also, as I said, you can bring this documentation into your actual coding environment. So if you're using like Copilot, if you're using Cursor, Windsurf, Visual Studio Code, you can drop in this technical documentation on how all the API endpoints, how all the methods are defined, how you call, how you call the endpoints, how you post events or get perform GET requests to pull data. And then as long as this is sitting in your environment, your coding environment, this is all very valuable context that your coding agent can now pull from. So you can almost think of this as kind of like an MCP in a sense, whereby as long as the developer copilot or your code generation tool has access to this context, the API is very much standard. So it's kind of like a RESTful API. It's using Open API, and it's using kind of very standard methods and requests. So when you want to post the score from your player, or if you want to get the leaderboard rankings, um, those updates will be very much standardized. So your coding agent doesn't have to think too much. It can pretty much quickly understand how the API is structured and like what are the endpoints. Where it gets fun is where in a lot of APIs, it's very kind of there's not a lot of creativity, right? So if it's just kind of providing you the functionality of the backend. But with generative AI and with Playbasis, it's all about creativity. So we don't have necessarily like predefined quests or points for your app. That's kind of like all up to how you design your app and like what's the player experience that you want to create for your users. But by having this API, you can iterate on that. You can make like really fun experiences for your users, and you can really personalize it. So you can like, you can provide custom challenges for specific cohorts of users, or even down to the per user level. You can create like weekly events or even daily events or monthly challenges that can change based on how your user base is engaging with your application. If you find that you have some kind of metric that you want to drive within your app, it could be more time spent, it could be engagement with certain features, more transactions, whatever it may be. Using this kind of like gamified or play-based system, you can add these loyalty mechanics, you can add these sort of game mechanics into your application. So whether you have like funnels or like you want to design engagement loops, using these tools can help you create these golden paths for your users and help them like explore your app more. And then that can lead to more points being earned in their virtual wallets, right? And then they can drive more redemptions, and that creates more liquidity in your ecosystem. So we really encourage like users to be creative. And the nice thing about having a solid API like this combined with the power of generative AI is you can apply this to all kinds of different games. So if you go to new.playbasis.ai/games, you can actually play these example games. And like, so for example, I think I created this Bubble Blast game, which I think is really cool. We also have the Rhythm Pulse game, which is a totally different experience. I think I can play the Bubble Blast game from the homepage here. And then what I did here was I actually created a way to kind of integrate business data through a game-based interface. So this example here is pulling. So let's say, for example, you work for a company and you have to resolve a lot of support tickets, or you are like working in a sales organization and you have like a CRM, or you work in like a software testing company and you're tracking bugs, or software development company and you are tracking your bug backlog. What if you could actually like visualize those in the form of like a play-based user interface? What if you could perform like actions on your CRM or in your like support ticket system using like a game? Wouldn't that be kind of more interesting and more fun? What if you could visualize all this structured and unstructured data in sort of like a play-based experience? I think that's like kind of the next evolution. That's where we can start talking about like serious games, like games where you actually have like business outcomes tied to them. But for just sort of like having fun and getting more attention from users, creating more loyalty within your app, Playbasis is like your like ideal partner for that. You have to remember, users right now have so many different options, so many different choices for consuming media. Like we have this infinite scroll in the form of like TikTok, for example. And every business is like now finding that they have to pull attention away from all of the user generated content that's out there and try to get people to pay attention to their brand, which is why you see so many brands trying to work with influencers and creators to create kind of like native content, and then even going as so far as to like using like ad budgets to promote their products, their stories, their videos, whatever it may be. That can be pretty costly and it's very competitive. But if you have a way to kind of help people spend time within your brand or within your ecosystem by making it more fun, by making it more engaging, by using these play-based techniques and mechanics, that can be a very powerful way to drive more loyalty. And again, with things like generative AI, you can transform fintech, you can transform banking, you can transform e-commerce, you can transform mobility, right? Ride sharing, right? Users are they hail a ride, they're now a passenger, and they have idle time. They can now sit and consume media because they're not driving the vehicle. They may be like just as a passenger. That could be a great way to have interactive content for your users. You could have things like uh, questionnaires, surveys, those kinds of things to collect preference data. You might even ask users to help you with your AI training by providing like preference data, for example, or helping to like identify objects in a scene. I think these are like powerful examples of ways that businesses will increasingly try to, if not directly monetize user engagement and time and attention, at least create some form of a data asset whereby users can sort of spend time with engaging with that brand, provide valuable data, and use that data to make the product or service even better. And then by aligning the incentives, you can make all of this sustainable. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges is that businesses want to serve their customers better, but it's hard for them to like understand what customers want. Because they don't really may not have the channel to communicate with them or to collect this information. And one way that they can kind of circumvent this or kind of alleviate that challenge is by offering some form of interactivity, some form of data capture and collection, but where it's incentive aligned. So users can actually see like, okay, if I do this quest, or if I answer this survey, or if I'm loyal to this service and like I start booking most of my travel using this platform, or I start shifting my spend from multiple cards and consolidating it onto this card, or if I start shopping more with this particular marketplace, then I would be rewarded and incentivized, because that means that the brand doesn't have to spend so much money on reactivating customers or acquiring new customers. And when you can sort of reduce this entropy, which is sort of like this disorder, right? Like there are businesses that want to sell something, but they have to advertise what it is that they're trying to sell, and that adds additional costs. And then from the user side of things, they're going to have to figure out, do I want to pay this extra cost, right? Because if I'm coming to this brand or this product for the first time, maybe they could offer me a coupon, like a new user discount or a new user coupon, right? And so if the business can understand like what their customer lifetime value is, what their customer acquisition costs are, then they can start shifting some of their spend a little bit towards things like loyalty and retention, and they can better manage their unit economics. And then of course the way to do that is if you have a very strong system like Playbasis, which can actually help you understand what users are doing, what are what are the KPIs that you want to track, like are they active, are they completing quests, are they referring users, right? Like are they redeeming the rewards? And then one of the things you'll typically see in things like virtual economies and games is you'll have this concept of faucets and sinks. So the faucets are the sort of like the injection of virtual rewards or virtual currencies into an economy, and a sink is how you spend those points or redeem those rewards. So ideally what you want to have is have like a solid correlation between, or ratio between, like the faucet and the sink, which is sort of to say like the capital inflows and the capital outflows, or the redemptions, so that the net is as low as possible. That means that you're creating high liquidity. If you inject a whole bunch of rewards, but people don't redeem them, then maybe they don't value those rewards, or the value of those rewards is not matching what the business expects and what the users expect. But if you for all the rewards you issue and all the points that you issue in terms of currencies, redeemable currencies, if they are being redeemed or spent at a high rate, that means that there's high liquidity and that users do value those rewards and they want to spend their coupons or points or credits or whatever virtual currency systems that you have. So I think that's really important for businesses to understand. Like when we're creating marketplaces, when we have these user bases and we want to build like a super app, we've acquired them, we have all these users, that can be considered an asset. And it's a form of distribution. We've spent to acquire these users. Now we want to figure out how to cross-sell, how to monetize, how to add more value. So a lot of times you'll see clients, applications, service providers offering new services. So, the typical example here is something like Uber started out as ride hailing, and then they realized they have all these users, right? They have all these wallets, all these credit cards on file, all these authenticated users, and then they also have their addresses, so they know, where to deliver to. So it makes sense for them to add on a new service line, which would be like food delivery, and then going forward, they may offer other things beyond just rides and food. We'll see what else comes. You'll see things like Airbnb also offer these adjacent services to kind of capture more wallet share and say, like, we have this asset, which is our app. We've acquired tons of users. Now we want to be able to cross-sell them, upsell them, create more engagement and more wallet share. And then hopefully by consolidating all of this and reducing the entropy in the user base, between the entropy between the business and the customers, right? The supply and the demand, then we can create better economics for both sides. And then when you can align these incentives, you can create win-win. So now it makes sense to say, look, we've already acquired as many users as we can at this point. We might be shifting away from pure paid acquisition to now we want to focus more on loyalty and retention, for example, upselling and cross-selling. And that's where having high retention is very important, because if you don't have the high retention, if you don't have the time spent in the application or within your ecosystem, then it's going to be hard to get users to actually try your new services. But if you can increase engagement, increase retention, then you're lowering your risk of launching services that don't get adoption. So this dashboard allows you to sort of measure the ROI on this engagement. And then once you have this data-driven decision-making available to you, you can start making better decisions, and then you can start feeling good about rewarding your users, providing better experiences, and creating more opportunities for users to engage even deeper with your business. So this is an example of how the API works from the portal standpoint. If you wanted to actually read this, if you wanted to just take this and then drop it in as a document within your IDE, that's also very, very much encouraged, and I recommend this. And then so when you want to build games or even just application components, you can use Playbasis system to help you do that. So for example, you can create these kinds of UIs, these kind of components, and drop them right into your application. So these are sort of like what you might see as traditional kind of reward mechanics or loyalty mechanics, or sort of like gamification in terms of like having quests and missions and leaderboards. And then if you wanted to actually have branded games, you could totally do that now, especially with generative AI and generative media. You can actually create full characters and music and graphics and everything end to end, and have it all wired up with Playbasis, which I think is a huge opportunity, especially since we're seeing agentic coding rise. You can imagine automating the creation of fun levels and new music and new stages for your players to play with. All right. That's just an example here, but I think it's pretty fun. And that's now an engine. So this is actually built using actually a game engine. So this application is running using a game engine, which you could extrapolate out to say, wow, what if my whole app was actually built using a game engine? Then maybe I could do a lot more interesting things from like a user experience perspective, like a UI UX perspective, that I might not be able to do as easily if I were to use, let's say, traditional kind of just like HTML kind of web experiences. So now if you're adopting these kind of interactive, like with effects and 3D and transitions and animations, music and full screen, that could make the experience of interacting with your brand like way more engaging. And then that like will lead to like more time spent, and then like better brand recall, and just overall like a fun factor that is really hard to replicate, right? Like I'm looking forward to like more creative types of media that go beyond just creating the traditional like passive videos that we're just sitting there, sitting back and consuming. I'd like to see people like get more engaged and like actually interact more. And I think games actually uniquely do this. I don't think there's any other form of media other than video games that provide that level of depth of interactivity and engagement. And I think we're just only scratching the surface. And as I said, like generative AI now allows us to build out apps and games much easier, much faster, which should be like great for consumers. Now we have almost like a surplus that we can create. Although today I would say it's still difficult to do it well. So I think that will just level up the playing field, whereby now it's not just like can you create a game, but it sounds like it's like is your game actually fun? Do people actually want to play it, right? So like that creates the new competition dynamic. Is like once everyone can start creating games using, let's say, vibe coding apps, are you just making simple games like that are going to be like boring after like a few playthroughs, or are you going to make like deep, rich, like really engaging games that have like progression, that have like community around it, like social aspects, real time like live game services? That I think is like the next level, and that's right where Playbasis like plays well into. So if you are a developer, for example, or you're a brand and you're interested in integrating these kinds of things for your particular use case, you should definitely reach out and we can get you set up and launched very quickly. We can do it at very affordable price rates, and we can launch in like days, right? It used to take months to do this kind of thing, weeks, months. Now this is really compressing the time to value so that we can find the fun much faster and get this experiences into the hands of our users or our players. So that is, I think, the main points I wanted to cover. Again, encourage you to go to new.playbasis.ai where you can try out these games. You can read more about our solutions. So we talked about the API. The creation of these components can also be automated, or we can actually help accelerate that using generative AI. We'll demonstrate this on another video because there's still some bugs I have to work out. But if you wanted to create like the leaderboard component, for example, or like a badge system, quest mission system, right? As long as the generative AI agent, the coding agent, has the context, it should be able to do it pretty easily. And that's what this will allow you to do, is you can create these components really quickly. And then if you wanted to adjust the rules, like say, oh, this is a little too hard, let's make it easier in the beginning, and then let's ramp the difficulty. Or like once people are like already at certain, like if they're already leveling up within your community and you need to add more levels, how do you do that either linearly or exponentially or using some kind of cubic function? Like how do you actually create more longevity to your games? How do you add more levels? How do you increase currencies and like increase caps in like a fair way? Then that's where like the rulebook workbench helps you do that, because it can help you map out these rules. You can simulate them and you can say, okay, this looks like it could be fun and it works. It makes logical sense. So we'll do that, right? So then that helps you create the rules and adjust the difficulty if you're not a developer. And then the dashboard that I showed earlier allows you to track sort of like the key metrics and like the analytics, so that you can be sure, like, are we getting an ROI on this? What is the lift of this? Like how many users do we have? Like what's their retention like? And then like what's our kind of total reward pool? Like what's our prize pool? Like how do we manage that? Like, and then once you tie all these things together, then you can create like really robust kind of like engagement loops and flywheels that help people find your funnels and your golden paths much easier, and then loop them back so that they can start again and continue progressing within your ecosystem. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys today. Encourage you to come play this game and try to rank up on the leaderboard. See you guys on the next one.